Hello, Connecticut interstates and international schools, intergrouped too. All groupings of humanity are being and having been used by a method that took syntactical possession over the positive and or over the negative treatments, and or neutrality descriptions of instances and names relative to how we need to use the hyper evidential too, and how people got away with pretending that they don't understand if someone would say something like that. For example, hyper-evidential is left out when we discuss all aspects of American history and where and how we have not heard how and why we have black pupils and white survivors. We have exceptions in exception nature. We have the other bodies of different species in demonstration too manifest with the same things. Or there's a creator, fighting about words. One of the things it is a shared identity of a distinct identity of simultaneous. They're not our species body. It's not the other species body, but it is anyway. It is a distinct identity of simultaneous nature, as a distinct identity of sequence nature. And so the species volume is a distinct identity of sequence slash simultaneous nature. And the other is true. The other sequence distinctly, non distinctly, is true conversely. Where and how we are actually capable of being a quality of fact tribute nature, where we are fact tribute nature, where we are means out of nowhere. And so we have humanity everywhere the species body is. We have more things that we agree about that are left out and through time than we needed to shut down the threats of wars and nuclear bombs. Same groups, countries, whether they're, oh, but we don't like each other. That's why we have the nuclear weapons pointed at each other. Then what are you doing controlling what can transverse the earth after all this time? We're still in that setup what was tactically the nature before our founders were born. George Washington and our founders communicated for us to communicate about how they didn't have free speech, about how they had to counter extort the other founders, about how there was a complete possession slash hyper possession. Everyone ignored the hyper possession. Had already been sustained upon the countries who spilled over here. It already, while it was sustaining through them, that on Native Americans and on our founders. And they had to fight with each other, sustained. The Native Americans before our founders were even born. Slavery was entrenched sickly distinctly, North and South America, before it was America. It was more than 13 colonies. And it was, and there were all kinds of criminally foreign influence, simultaneously tactical delusions, raw positive treatments and or negative treatments that were collusion slash S as a standing identity of criminal insidiousness nature slash hypercriminal insidiousness nature. And these are also the words that the cartoon characters that represent the people of New York City, for example, we were supposed to address the extortion of George Washington honestly. We're supposed to address the extortion and the tortures of and the identity thefts and frauds against everyone, like James Madison too. Simultaneously, we're supposed to address this. We have not addressed it. Through our schools, they teach that it was true. Well, our founders were forced to leave as their excuse. In other words, everyone had to hide their roles with really why and how they had the any amount of courage all at once to have a fight against the tea tax, etc. You fight against the tea tax, and then you describe that, and you leave out the slavery. Then you need to value the breaching method, measure, and maintain that. It shows the experts of each of the sciences how to get away with what would have accumulated with where and how, and, people use short have means to use short words properly. But the difference between overt criminal enterprises, private ones, the branches of government as criminal insidious nature, the exceptions tied to them, the news timed collusion slash F, and with the insidiousness of the logic of people A through Z, only dishonestly speaking with others' names involved, and or with their own, and or that body is sensed, even if that body is a majority, even of nations. So countries A through Z, territories, all groupings, we can make hyper positives out of negatives, which is this totally different than making positive out of negatives, which is also hyper evidential because we would have known this had honestly any modern history been taught. See, they raised people to abridge sciences with narratives regarding industries. Certain type of victim slash hyper victim can't defend that without affording and get away with it the way they need to without self-valuing how fake things are being and having been stacked into each of the databases. Vertical and horizontal confessions were made to me at each of the campuses I went to, and between them, there were people I never tried to contact. They made fake exceptions, which is important because this is about the human programming by nature, being and having been replaced since before the invention of computers and all these hyper additional, apparent extensions of the definition of programming and of all the words in the dictionary, like identity. Every program works with identities, identity of value slash value progression as a sequence slash simultaneous nature. The human species body of individual bodies is a invisible but still discernible part of consciousness that we share with the other species bodies. I don't have the link to it. There was a YouTube short video I saw. I was looking through the shorts videos on YouTube, and someone filmed an ape was walking through the jungle, and he was just going by his path, but he reached over without even looking back, and he grabbed the guy by his pants and just pulled him and just dragged him like a few feet, and then just kept when he's out of sight. And the guy just came back up. He didn't hurt him. But in other words, think about it, even the insects. Next time, if there's a spider or something in your house, try to get it to walk and talk nice to it, and try to get it to walk onto a paper towel, and then just fold it and carry it outside. It's crazy. In other words, I did that with cricket. Like crickets got two, 3 crickets in a row, and then they're gone. So, in other words, you feel better after you do that, and it adds up. We go around killing insects all the time. We don't want to live with them. But what we live with in some of these conversations, they are the possession slash hyper possession of a breaching method that already effectively measured and maintained. Rolls with torture and with extortion, even of our founders' self-value. So, I'm a patriot. Are you crazy? In other words, the nature of debate. That's one of the things also hyper evidentially recorded. Where these in other words, we can appreciate the hyper evidential. Humanity has 2 eyes, even insects and the other species bodies have it. There's a shared identity of and as a distinct identity of simultaneous nature, which is one of the things. One of the things as 3 things simultaneously being a species body is individual, grouped, difference, slash S in the species body. There are proofs that the republic for which we stand is so great because it was brought and was revealed in ancient times before the sciences became criminally foreign influenced, but it is abridged. And it was revealed by people. It is more probable and increasingly demonstrable by people that were appreciating yin yang and alpha and omega as the same science because they're appreciating the discernment of five distinct identities of hyper simultaneous nature as five distinct identities of sequence nature of the same identity of value slash value progression that is also three ways bound and per how we could discern this. It is only the extent of it is debatable. And if one debates it, their logic has inherent to it, active to it, and group demonstrations of it, and increasing ones. But see, we have the experts on logic are still tactically delusions wrought and criminally foreign influence, but as our country is individually grouped in together. The people speaking on the law have roles with predicate acts with facts. They have roles with a criminal insidiousness delivery system method, black pupils. Yeah, we don't have time for this. In other words, the black and white, everyone left out who assigned that. It was before our founders. So also they have delusions that, in other words, and the way they, if you examine the substance of the differences of people, they're 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 relying upon things they believe are debatable, and they're saying that other people are saying things that are debatable. The only reason they're getting away with it, for example, WFSB had a fake conversation with me. They have a Roger Suzanne and have names on off WFSB in Rocky Hill, who has roles with foreign and domestic military, foreign and domestic people involved with the World Trade Center, on off courts like the court next. There's a Ninth Circuit court next to the that was next to the or is or was next to the World Trade Center towers right before the attack. Shortly before the night before it, other short term ways before it, and long term before it. Names that had been interstates and intercities, Connecticut, roles with narratives and natures, also that are pretended into databases, where kids that don't even go to the same schools and kids that go to the same schools never see each other, and exceptions used criminally foreign influenced, tactically ulterior from how nature uses exceptions in exception nature. So they have logic gates with programming, and they have conjunction with logic gates with electrical engineering, and assignments of identities, value slash value progression, three ways bound. Simultaneously, relativity to this is the value of what actually came true first. For example, before our founders were born, note the ones who had the counter extort the other founders. Already the breaching method had been sustained against Native Americans. Therefore, demonstrably, the Native Americans have been prevented means to defend what they would have been able to defend, fact sheet nature wise. And they made them fight with each other about how to counter that. And they sustained that. People say, oh, divide and conquer. They bring up Rome as the republic, or Italy as a republic, or America, these broken republics. Because this was being led by the identity of the hyper simultaneous. English is a religion, is a language that was religiously pursued with other languages. We're valuing difference if we're doing it right, because it has us having the same color eyes while we have different color eyes, because it's communicating about difference. Reason uses difference. Correlation uses difference in ways simultaneously greater than and more finite than, and dealing with the active in ways that math cannot appreciate. All exceptions in exception nature that appears to be in demonstration of other is really in demonstration of the same thing slash s. So I am not a lawyer, but the hyper evidential, we could use this. Pro se, we could have judges and prosecutors. They will repent. So in other words, we have people speaking about the law who are tactically delusions wrought simultaneously, where and how they've been getting away with it. I mean, we could have corrected that just by addressing their roles with them at locations too are involved. Location slash S. From semi-ancient times before modern religions leaders were born, the sciences had already become abridged. Uses of their names, therefore uses of increasingly of the names that are their only stewards, allowed to be, or it's worse. Although there are filters making either self-valued abridged uses of the names of each science, of the value of their convictions. In other words, or there are problems, because already all database locations are being and haven't been used better than perfectly by a 666 method that puts 666 hyper additional motivations. So to keep everyone blaming other things, others, ourselves, while they knew to an extent, and while the breaching method measures and maintains everyone knowing to an extent, everyone's leaving out the breaching method with their logic. And though they're blaming other things, others, ourselves, and defending that. And the breaching method knew the only way they would be able to get away with that is by self-valuing already having been forced, tricked, or persuaded. Only known, only remembered. Criminally foreign influence readings of statutes simultaneously tactically delusions wrought, not just delusions wrought. And this is with the experts on that, originally and still. It's part of, they have wire crime methods, they have predicate acts with facts methods, where they've been planting evidences at locations increasingly. Oh, see, then no, in other words, the court's names, all sides in criminal and civil cases, the names involved with that, the people at the body dumping spots, the people killed, people associated with them. In other words, there's a girl dragged to her death, reportedly dragged to her death. Is it made up, real or made up? Even if because they're making stuff up with the news as collusions with various natures of organized crime under the guise of legitimately making things up with the news. So Wethersfield and people that grew up around me before they came to my schools, there were ties made between people in that. When I was at other schools, in other words, there are means to discern how used remotely criminally foreign influence are people leading up to the World Trade Center attack in that context and sense involved with predicate acts and with threats of violence that they can't back up. That's why and how they use weapons and why and how they used differentially themselves or the overt criminal enterprises or the private ones, and their immediate and extended family members or the ones foreign, with the timed uses of corners of streets all along roads and routes and religious locations, because they've been fabricating transcripts for people. The differences between the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, all that stuff. Oh, but that's not our job. Our job's for this caseload. While they're doing that, they have roles with the wire crime acts and methods. They have roles with identity theft, fraud, slander methods, predicate acts with facts methods, and standing criminal insidious natures, as what wants to debate with us. They're making things up about when people use simple short words. And then they're lying about when people speak clear or not. In other words, they're lying about when people speak things clear about what they feel, oh, how could you guys know what we perceive? You guys are forging evidences. That's how I know. You have to follow mandated law and get on paper. So there are people that moved in on both sides of me. Before they moved in, a Dillon family was already involved with Weathersfield police, with state police, and people from Whiting Forensics, with federal crimes, with also foreign and domestic military, and people that were involved inter-campuses, planting evidences on and off people's homes, at corners of streets near everyone, all along roads and routes, with the news, with other communications locations, hiding behind how they have different countries. Oh, we went and fought against the country, but they're collusions, though. Then they come on and say, oh, but it's for the money. No, forget them. It's not about that. They should follow mandated law. Well, otherwise, don't ignore people. Just ignoring people is mandated law. Guys roles have roles with child defender leaders and kids, further involved with Sandy Hook campuses and courts tied to it. That's part of how they can be getting away with it. And the police forums, there are people with the name O'Neill who work with West Hartford schools, who are further involved with the principal child abuser, and Weathersfield police that are involved with other police forms. Foreign and domestic military families have roles on and off the campuses and inter-campuses with relative vertical and horizontal convections. Because these are convections also the next years when people are in other locations, so you can't go back and tell on things, but you're going to remember things. And these are also roles with all sides in criminal and civil cases recorded used, with victims and victims advocates and interbranch sticking fake things at the same time, switching names, putting sequence shifts, putting fake motivations, narratives verbally, etc., into databases, using interbranch locations to increasingly have to hide at other locations, what actually is recorded. So New Britain Superior Court and Hartford courts have people on Two Route Highway and where it runs into Hangdog Lane, for example, involved with corners of the streets there and corners of the streets next to the schools, with little boys and girls involved with the intelligence community and with adults in the intelligence community through time, and then again, criminally foreign influence roles with mayors. There's a Mayor Gold and his family and his neighbors are increasingly involved with drugs and medicines crimes with kids and other natures of sexual crimes with them and medical crimes with them. Fake ties to me, fake natures of ties to me. And this is where being forced to speak through other people, as part of how they're doing the predicate acts methods. So a whole bunch of people with the name Kevin Dillon, and they planted things with the same locations, and they hurt even when they help the kids, when they get them to hurt other kids, because their roles with uses remotely of interbranch locations that can be discerned, but we have to discern how they had names on all sides of criminal and civil cases, the lawyers, the victims advocates, and names of the courts planting fake things at the same time and with the news. So WFSB has roles with people named Oliveri and Cololo and on off Elm Street and Kerr and Demorrow. and there's a guy named Cool Joe. I don't know who it is. He didn't do anything wrong. I don't know who he is. If I do know who he is, and someone that has been said associated with the Russians, with Wethersfield police chief and his lawyer, and people associated with them, and the extended family member of and intimate ties of former retired police chiefs, Sintran, and some other one or more of them, associated with the same house, associated with this whiting forensics through time, involved with prosecutors and judges on off those streets. It also has something to do with their roles with houses along at corners along Ridge Road, and with and streets on conjunction to that. People with the name Domain are involved with the intelligence community, with child offenders that are different natures at the same time, the different natures of organized crime, and conscious uses of the right to lie where they don't have the right to lie. And you know, where investigators in their campuses and everyone around them is used remotely criminally foreign influence. And forgiveness is needed because there is worse involved in all countries grouped. So a whole bunch of people that will tell you that barely know me, that only been influenced to make fake exceptions of knowing me when I was a kid. They have also roles with all along Route 3 through time. Has roles with judges and prosecutors, planting evidences with names next to campuses with a whole bunch of different countries. And they have methods of getting away with this that are conscious uses of the sciences, self-valued abridged, being and having been abridged. We're supposed to get the Constitution unabridged. We're supposed to address the extortion of George Washington, let alone, you know, the people of New York City. We're supposed to address how the suburbs are tactically denatured. We're supposed to address how before cars were invented, before founders were born, they built these suburban homes. Or worse, as part of the torture extortion method. Sickly distinctly, the North was everyone was factory nature enslaved. That spilled over here. Native Americans against Native Americans, because everyone's forced to react as factory nature or to ignore it as factory nature. All exceptions, exception nature, to sense it through our own for the breaching method while it measures and maintains that only capable of being done by all formal positions and natures. See criminal insidiousness nature. See it as a nature. See nature as a word for where and how identity is only an increasing identity of volume, where volume equals value as nature, / nature is value. And it's already agreed about in the law that people are valued even after they're gone. You see, all the systems, though, you guys left out how the industries, the difference between the people that work for them are unemployed or not. In other words, they have roles hurting others when we pretend things are debatable. Our founders communicated for us to understand how the industries were forced as an additional identity of factory nature, torture, extortion, and slavery, to also measure and maintain further tactical ulterior from how nature has assigned us as identities. Answer / S. Black people's whites, white, and with hyper additional. You know, nature. In other words, I forgot to mention, nature is a word for identity, and we need more words than one for identity not for the reasons the news keeps repeating, because they have collusions at all locations slash S, and with use slash S of vertical and horizontal confessions. So there are people with the name Mendez who are involved with the intelligence community with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and they have roles with West Hartford campuses, including private and public campuses and houses next to them, involved with various natures, drugs and medicines crimes. And, and when there's a Mendez, there were doctors who had roles with kids. One of them was reportedly by someone tied to him, one of the Mendez police brothers that attached me to fake conversations. They have rules with judges and prosecutors through time with the Britain Superior Court, with the hallway of the court, and others with the hallway of the court with them. With identity theft, fraud, slander. I never had a class with Eric Mendez in my life. I never had a conversation with Janito Mendez or whatever. He uses different names. I think he uses the name Roberto or whatever too. In other words, they try to, in other words, and they also have roles with criminally foreign influence uses of what's written actually and changing what's written over Facebook and the value of it as their roles were fabricating things into interbranch databases, as they did with all sides with criminal and civil cases leading up to the World Trade Center attack context in the court right next to it with the names on off the World Trade Center as victims and as the attackers. They force Saudis to roles they don't even realize. They just attach everyone to fake and change words and fake intentions for it. People from Weathersfield, when I was a kid, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed West Hartford was involved and New Britain was involved with federal crimes, with kids and adults, with identity theft, fraud, slanders, attaching kids to fake ties to others, fake natures of ties to others, sequential fake locations, and as collusions with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and with the witness protection program, and then again, as names involved with corners and names along Griswold Street and other streets and the on off parks. There's a former Mayor Gold, who's one of the ones that Joe Aiello, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, has involved with fire departments. Other people in military, foreign and domestic, are involved with fire departments. Eric Burgess, I don't know his parents' names. His house is right next to a fire department in West Hartford. It's one of the ones involved with a Dean Alford and a Dean Judd. Has people with the intelligence community from New Britain Superior Court and Hartford courts involved with their families and intimate ties. Has timed collusion with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, and people associated with that at UConn. Not legitimately if they're pretending to be legitimate plainclothes police forms. They also have Weathersfield Pizza involved with this. And neighbors of theirs like a demand, Brian Bonin sought me out to record, confess, demonstrate, confirm he has roles with the intelligence community along Route 3 and with his parents' business and neighbors, like a Enzo Fienza. Recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. He's one of the ones involved with the South Sevilla and people with the name Dylan who are involved with child offenders, also with female offenders who've been planting evidences, also with a principal upskirt nature, who has roles with also Hartford courts. Eric Burgess is one of the people that one of the girls of families of the so Hartford courts had roles with former director of the FBI and his co-defendants, and they offered to have a deposition hosted there. It didn't have to be hosted there because it wasn't. See, most times when people sue the government, it's from in prison, but this was a civil RICO lawsuit against the union that is in collusion with a former director of the FBI against me, also with both sides in relative cases, like in 2006 district court case. There are people with the name Brian Silver, who is involved with the Britain Superior Court, and with Rick Cianfaglio, involved with Timothy O'Brien, Andrew O'Brien, and their family, with the intelligence community, with people with medical corruption in various police departments and Sandy Hook campuses. They also have roles with Rocky Hill. There was a Italian themed event recently. There are people with the name Lombardo who are involved with. They probably wanted me to approach him because he's one of the ones involved with next to the campuses with identity theft, fraud, slander, and conversations with the intelligence community. Like the FBI and the military has roles with people with the name Lombardo and Walters next to Weathersfield campuses, and the name Yagman. There's an Anthony Yagman involved with doctors, involved with child defenders, sexual and medical, with the name Leahy. And there's one with the name Dingleberry and Dewberry, and the difference between that. And I don't know which, because I don't know which one is which, but one of they're involved with federal crimes with lawyers too, and with contracts and with fake things typed in databases, also with various natures, of course, through time, and their family members. So people with the name Cololo and said that there are people with the name Spada, confirmed, confessed, demonstrated, recorded, people with the name Spada and Della Fera have judges and their family members, and they had sexual circles, and they have other boyfriends with the same girlfriends in the Spada family, involved with Ray Cololo, involved with wire crimes with Weatherfield police, switching names, forging names, and then not telling whole names or whole stories at the same time. They were involved with threats with guns and with knives and with punk games and with sequence shifts and with the courts planting evidences at locations in here. And so, Judging Freedom with Judge Napolitano, please respond for them. Or Interbranch, Connecticut, they've been switching names, fortunately, use wire crime methods, the Weathersfield police. They can't be called on the phone. They just fabricate transcripts. They can't be trusted to go in there because they already faked conversations with me, and then as an adult too. That's how sick fake they are. That's how caught they are. They also have a whole bunch of people tied to a Chet Casper and they're involved with the military, foreign and domestic people next to and medical families at Hartford Hospital involved with drugs, medicines, crimes, with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, and sexual circles and interreligious. And identity theft, people I never even had classes with. And that's also relative to where and how they call us the same class when you graduate. And also where and how I stayed back. There were two speech class teachers. Both of them have roles of drugs and medicines crimes, and felt as roles with planting fake evidence and fake conversations and ties to people. And identity theft, fraud, slanders, methods, roles, relative all sides in criminal and civil cases, and lawyers. So people with the name Pandolf have roles planting evidences and with depositions used criminally for and influenced by the courts planting evidences at crime scenes as timed collusions with overt criminal enterprises and private ones. People involved with the witness protection program then again have timed roles at the corner of Fairlane Drive and Griswold Street with that, and with people tied to the name um, Joshua Stryker, who's involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders against me. He's not even in my grade. A whole bunch of people tied to him involved with their teachers, fake conversations with the intelligence community, involved with FBI and people on off the state judicial branch offices, Elm Streets and Rocky Hill and Weathersfield, who've been planting evidences, roles with a whole bunch of other countries, sick, fake punks, and delusions raw. So you got to get on paper and one name and sequence because you guys have violence involved. You have rules with crime scenes. You should fear God that you really hide this from Judge Napolitano, pretend you don't realize. Since you were kids, you have roles with this, with the vertical and horizontal court confessions part. People years before that. So you can't say anything because these are people that also do this intercities. You have a whole bunch of murders that are tied. They were all made up. You wasted my time at the cities with the confessions because they were tied. These are intelligence families that live next to New Britain Central Connecticut State University, have roles with names at locations next to Trinity College in Hartford, and how there are two New Britain Avenues. These are the people with the courts and the FBI recorded before the World Trade Center attack. They've been forcing people to roles with sick things like child abuses. The same names have roles with elderly homes. The programs, you got to use sick fake punks. You can't look at an elderly home and know that, like the cities. Look at the cities and elderly homes at the same time. You think one honest soul spoke for law? Oh, but we're politicians that. Oh, but it's because the money. I told you it's the politician. No one's dealing with the premises. Stay on how it's unacceptable. We go like this. We go like this. The elderly have more and more. They should have beautiful meals where they have that slop. Oh, but it's the diet. Meanwhile, they're putting drugs in. That's with their diet. That's who cares about the diet. They don't care about the diet. Oh, but it's the money. What did our founders tell us to tell about the money with the torture? You guys are torturing the people in New York City, sickly distinctly from the people of Hartford, Connecticut, sickly distinctly from the people of the suburbs. And who pretends to be content? These are people putting fake things in databases. So a bunch of doctors have roles with judges and prosecutors and themselves and their family members, with child offenders, with identity theft frauds, planting fake evidences with agencies next to the campuses. So get out of the campuses or get on paper and respond for the confessions of the principal child abuser to me and a whole bunch of different phone calls to me. And they hid that. The agencies are hiding what's actually recorded over the wire. So you guys are hiding how you have a whole bunch of different nations with their militaries also at Central Connecticut State University with the ones that were involved. I didn't even have them in my classes. They're with their intelligence families and their friends putting fake things with the people on my street, making fake exceptions tied to no me, and sequence shifts roles with that. Part of the vertical and horizontal confessions. Then they're pretending people, in other words, people are jumping into other people's conversations. When you mention child abusers, you got to be a sick fake punk. Get them the one name in secret. Only three branches of government. Get them on paper. Whiting forensics through time. They're increasingly involved with the same house slash S. And the people before they came in and involved and then because they're locking the conversation. I'm simply planting evidences. They abused other people that used to the kids that used to live in the area, and they exploited that because they're trying to make things look real that they put fake in the databases through time. So Ray Reynolds, I never tried to contact Ray Reynolds in my life. He's increasingly demonstrated involved with this. Leading up to the World Trade Center attack, Connecticut intercities had been planting evidences because they've been roles with where it's used remotely, where names on all sides in criminal and civil cases and the news at the same time. People next to the body dumping spots, next to the crime spots, on off even the houses and uses of ad placement, news stories next to the campuses too to force cover-ups, more predicate acts, and to force preemptively roles with such things like child abusers, leaders of the kids. So Weathersfield schools have more people. There's a Emmett. There's a superintendent Emmett. There are people with the name Fazina and Fienza who are further with judges and prosecutors and names on off the state judicial branch offices. Also ones with the name Potter. Had conversations with me. I mean, pretended conversations with me. And then where they've made fake exceptions on Facebook where they're recorded involved also where I had confirmed roles with names on off the state judicial branch offices and Hangdog Lane where it runs into Two Lot Highway, etc. Those are people involved with the body dumping spot of Billy Grasso and the people on off the state judicial branch office in Elm Streets and Rocky Hill and Weathersfield who have roles with child defenders, planting evidences with the people that counter such. In other words, they use the charge of harassment and they fabricate audio and video with the Weathersfield police, with state police families retired and standing, also involved with the same house that has timed collusions with the FBI And they have predicate acts also grouped with the interbranch family members. So there's an Amy or Amy, Emily or Amy, who is one of the ones involved with Eric Burgess, made shifting confessions. They were influenced to say things so they could record things after they communicated to others. In other words, they have federal evidence as crimes planting before the World Trade Center attack with the FBI and with courts, with Hartford courts and the Britain court and Superior Court. And then some of the people involved with it in the locations, they confirmed and demonstrated after it was true. In other words, so they would need to lie about the sequence of when they said that too. That's why they've been sticking predicate acts with facts every year since the World Trade Center attack. So Weathersfield police have been roles with the names. There's a police chief Centron who's also involved with the Bravo network, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. He's one of the Weathersfield police involved with Newington police families and Rocky Hill police families, Hartford police families, West Hartford police families, and state police families, also interstates, like with people with the name Violet, also involved with that girl who was dragged to her death, who was involved with foreign and domestic military people with next to the state capitol, and religious spots with religious cycles, KKK themed, black themed, and interreligious. Identity theft, fraud, slanders clicks with the military fake motivations too. Increasingly, there are roles with the buildings next to the state capitol, and like those are like clubs. The only people can interact. They're putting people to fake ties, fake natures of ties. You have this since founding. You have delusions, raw people speak, and simultaneously criminally foreign influence, factory nature, quality aspects of nature of people speaking for the law. So you to get them on paper has something to do with their roles all along, the roads and routes like 175. They have further roles with the placements at the campuses, and each of the sciences individually grouped and together. It is maintained that they are self-valued, being having been used. Those names of the sciences abridged, so it could be measured and maintained. Where and how nature demonstrates that, and our obligation is increasingly to demonstrate it. So we were going to address the extortion and the torture of James Madison and of George Washington honestly and in sequence. And we're going to see how rightfully everyone was too afraid to be for revolution, but they had to be forced to, even though it's what they all want. Because every single person is just going to change what they say anyway. That's why we have to force the hyper evidential accepted by the interbranch. I'll show you how they got away with this. Make sure you get them on paper, one name and sequence. Follow mandated law for Connecticut interbranch and for New York. You obviously missing this. Judge Napolitano, judging freedom. I asked you guys plenty of times, get them the one name and sequence. You'll find out it's way worse. Okay? Follow mandated law for the World Trade Center investigators too. Have them say sorry, the military involved with Hartford Hospital too. And have them fear God to wait anymore. Because I'm sick of drawing maps. What is with all along Route 175 and the wire crimes and the people they put around me that pretended that sought me out when I was a kid? That's one of the things tied to it. And with this Violet family and with this Joshua Schumack. This Joshua Schumack, and he has neighbors of his and family of his involved with child abuses, identity theft, fraud, slanders, and federal evidences crimes since he was a kid. Fear God if he took an oath. Make sure we discipline these people for going against the pledge. Forget the flag. We pledge to the flag because we're pledging to the invisible but still discernible / hyper invisible but still discernible. That's what the identity of the country is. You fakes. You want to debate the wrong things. You want to force the quality of fact, cheap nature that's either this side or that side, black or white. Where's the breaching method? Where's the breaching method? Where's nature's identity showing us what black and white is about? Fake sides, follow mandated law. don't speak. Don't no, they have criminally foreign influence uses of questions. This means to do that. Follow mandated law for them. Get me out of the fake conversations with WFSB and others. You'll see. But that's me with fake conversations with themselves and others at the same time when I caught them with child offenders. And they have women with the courts involved with it. A whole bunch of women in the Britain Superior Court involved with people on my street who've been involved planting evidences with wire crime methods too. And a little fake, little tricks that are timed roles with other natures of wars and organized crime. So get the little fakes onto paper and get me off the fake conversations with this Leahy family under oath, Judge Napolitano. There's a Leahy family that pretended they had conversations with me, put me in quotes. They're involved with a whole bunch of people at Hartford Hospital, been planting evidences on my street since I was a kid from other parts of town tied to them. They have roles with an untimely death at Trinity College with the ones on my street that were planting evidences at the time and with the names involved with the wire crimes with Weatherfield Police. And they have more roles with poisons, intercities with the same names involved with it. Covington Street confirmed this. They have roles with intelligence community from Weathersfield through time, criminally foreign influence with New Britain Superior Court judges and Hartford courts people and family members. They're little sick fakes with their time crimes with overt criminal enterprises, private ones. They're not legitimately caring about jobs and all that. Get down. I'll show you how to heal the species body. That's the one. That's the first thing. That's the first thing we have to do. Address how short words explain everything properly, and how that is measured that other communicated for our founders and they communicated for to have to communicate for themselves. We can tell no lies. We're going to be a quality of fact keeping nature that's capable of overcoming hyper criminal insidiousness natures A through Z. And we're going to walk right through them because every species body longs this. Who denies it will have inherent active and progressive to their fact keeping nature. What is in demonstration of the same thing. YouTubers, here, get them follow mandated law on time now. Give me a response. I want a response. What do I have to beg you? In other words, the recorded the WFSB has World Trade Center predicate acts after it as their roles with the Connecticut interbranch leading up to it that had roles with the names on the World Trade Center, including the name Keene, people with the name Keene, increasingly involved with this DeMoro and with the former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and names with like this Mendez with child offenders, including sexual, medical, timed collusion with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and the witness protection program involved people and people with the tied body dumping spots reported and confessed and confirmed on Facebook by the Fianzas. One of the Fianzas involved with the spots next to the Keens too, no, and on Two Road Highway where it runs into Hangdog Lane, no. Also has people with their spots next to the news locations, no, and next to the state capitol, and with foreign and domestic military, no, and medical, and as the ones involved with other natures of sick things. In other words, with elderly, the people that are all the roles with the like mentally disadvantaged, with or retired, mentally retarded people and stuff like that, involved with Rocky Hill. Be also involved with forensics locations, Sandy Hook campuses too. They have roles with the sensitivity. The intelligence community has been discrediting good information, and they're also still tactically delusions wrong. So get them on paper. They want or have them stop speaking, and because they have wire crime action methods with the people who answer the phones, they have phone methods too. They're playing hear no evil, see no evil, pretend it couldn't exist when they're being shown. They know that. Oh, but that's just like get down. Black pupils are gonna have their course. Box six. Wait till you see the cop using the name Darth Vader and the sexual cliques involved with murders and stuff like that with probation officers at the spots next to the campuses, and the people that counter them have collusions with them. It's tied to the people timed collusions with a whole bunch of other countries that are shared on off the campuses. to have rules with untimely deaths. And then again, where there were uses of it too connected. That one at Trinity College had uses of it with names over here who were planting at other campuses, at other houses, conversations about me. And it's nothing, it's against them too. I mean, it hurts to them to do it. They're having the conversations, leaving out what's actually recorded. So I want a response for the principal child abuser's confessions and the recorded other predicate acts and child abuse's roles of an Emmett and of people with Central Connecticut State University and the school boards, excuse me. Also the school boards and with the news treatments. Now these are also people that are pretending to be about sexual rights of the kids, where they have degenerate sex offenders and their doctors who are sick fakes together, who are planting evidences in databases with judges. No one's looking in those databases. They're using wire crime action methods, drugs and medicines crimes rules. Identity theft, fraud, slander with their extended family members. The difference is that's why they have, you're going to see this. They should get away from so this Robert Rodriguez is also one of the ones involved. And then they have the doctor, the difference between who is who. Get down. Get them on paper fast, please.